Hello students, today in this video I am going to explain a poem from the textbook First Flight for the students of class 10th, and the name of the poem is A Tiger in the Zoo, which is composed by the famous poet Leslie Norris. In this poem, the poet tries to depict the mental condition of a caged tiger in the zoo. He compares the life of a tiger in the zoo with its life in its natural habitat. The poet conveys an important message that the wild animals should be left in their natural habitat. In the poem, the poet highlights or heightens the difference between freedom and captivity. He very impressively shows us how love for freedom is natural instinct of every living being. Students, the poem A Tiger in the Zoo throws light on the plight of wild animals when they are kept in a zoo. This poem contrasts or differentiates a tiger in the zoo with the tiger in its natural habitat. The poem moves from the zoo to the jungle and back again to the zoo. Let us read the poem silently once and say which stanzas speak about the tiger in the zoo and which ones speak about the tiger in the jungle. Now, let us begin reading from the first stanza. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage, on pads of velvet quiet, in his quiet rage. Students, in this stanza, the word stalks stands for to move quietly and slowly in a threatening way, and the word vivid stands for bright or clear. The word stripes stands for long narrow bands, and the word pads here stands for the soft part under the foot of the tiger, and the word rage stands for anger. Students, in the first stanza, the poet talks about the tiger locked in a concrete cell in the zoo. It is a very small cage. When the tiger is in the zoo, behind the bars, he looks majestic as he moves slowly up and down from one side to another side in the limited area of his cage. The sharp and clear stripes on his body are of strong bright color. He moves very softly and steadily because his paws are as soft or smooth as velvet. He is full of anger. In spite of all his strength, he is quiet in his helplessness, imprisoned behind the bars. It shows that he feels restless and uneasy in that small cage. He seems to be very frustrated and helpless. Now let us talk about the literary devices used in the first stanza. First of all, let us talk about the rhyming scheme of this stanza. The rhyming scheme of this stanza is A, B, C, B. Students, the rhyme of the word stripes does not match with any ending word of line 2, 3 and 4. That is why we have given it letter A, and the rhyme of the word cage in the third line matches with the word rage in the fourth line. That is why we have given letter B to both of these, and the rhyme of the word quite does not match with any ending word of line 1, 2, 3 and 4. That's why a different letter has been given to it, that is C. I hope you understood the rhyme scheme of this stanza. Now let us talk about the another literary devices, that is the personification. Personification has been used in the first line here the poet has used pronoun he for the tiger. That clearly means that tiger is referred as he and the tiger has been personified by the poet. Students, you must remember what is personification. Personification is a figure of speech in which an inanimate object or abstract thing are given human qualities or abilities. So here the poet has given the human attributes to the tiger and has used the pronoun for the tiger he, which is generally used for human beings. That is why here the figure of speech is personification. Now let us talk about the another poetic device or literary device, that is metaphor, which is in the third line. Students, metaphor is a figure of speech in which comparison is made between two unlike or dissimilar things without using comparative words like such as or just as. So here in the third line we clearly see that tiger's paws are compared with velvet. Using the line on pads of velvet, it means that tiger's paws are as soft as the velvet. So here tiger's paws are compared with velvet. The next literary device is enjambment that has been used by the poet in the first line. Students, what is enjambment? When a sentence or phrase continues over more than one line without any punctuation mark, literary device enjambment is there. And here we see the same. The first line continues to the next line without any punctuation mark. So whenever this thing happens, literary device enjambment is there. Next literary device is imagery. In the line, he stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage. In both of these lines, here the poet tries to create an image about tiger. He represents the tiger who is inside the cage in such a way that the readers while reading it can visualize. So what is imagery? When poet uses words and phrases to create mental image in reader's mind, that is imagery. So as I told you, here the poet has tried to create an image about the tiger. The next literary device is consonance that has been used in the first line. He stalks in his vivid stripes. So what is consonance? Consonance is close repetition of similar consonant sounds within the words, usually in stressed syllables. So here we see in the first line use of letter S in the word stalks and in the word his and in the word stripes. So here S sound is repeated again and again. That is why the figure of speech in this line is consonance. The next literary device is assonance, and assonance is in the same line. And what is assonance? Assonance is the repetition of similar vowel sounds. याद रहे स्टूडेंट्स कि कॉन्सोनेंट्स में कॉन्सोनेंट साउंड रिपीट होती है, जैसे कि एस रिपीट हुआ था, बट इन द एसोनेंस vowel sound is repeated within the words in a sentence or line of poetry in stressed syllables. So here we see that the vowel I in and vowel I in word his, and the vowel I in the word vivid and stripes. Here we see that the vowel I has been repeated. That is why the figure of speech or literary device used in this line is assonance. The next poetic device is oxymoron, that has been used by the poet in the fourth line of this stanza. Students, oxymoron is two contradictory opposite words used together. So simply, or in simple words, we can say when two opposite qualities are put together in a sentence, the figure of speech oxymoron is there. So here in the fourth line we see that the words quiet and rage have been used by the poet, which are opposite in meaning. So it clearly visible to us, or the use of opposite adjectives in meaning, which are quiet and rage. So here the poetic device is oxymoron. Students, in the first stanza the poet speaks about the tiger in the zoo, and in the second stanza the poet speaks about the tiger in the jungle. Let us see what he says in the second stanza. He says he should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. The word lurking in the first line of this stanza stands for hiding. The word sliding stands for moving, and the word hole in the third line stands for pool or any water body, and the word plump in the fourth line stands for fleshy or chubby. Students, here we see that in the first stanza the poet speaks about the tiger in the zoo imprisoned behind the bar. So looking at the imprisoned tiger, the poet is filled with pity, and that is why in the second stanza he says that the poor tiger should have been in his natural habitat, which is the jungle. The zoo is not the suitable place for him. He should be hunting and resting. Then at this hour of the night he would have been lying in the shadows of trees and sliding quietly through the long grass. He would then, near the water hole, wait for a small, fat and healthy deer to pass that way. Thus, he would be lying there in expectation of a heavy feast for himself. Now, let us talk about the literary devices used in the second stanza. First of all, let us talk about the rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme of this stanza is same as the stanza 1. A, B, C, B. Students, the rhyme of the word shadow in the first line does not match with any ending word of line second, third and fourth. That's why we have given it letter A, and the rhyme of the word grass and pass in the fourth line matches with each other. That is why we have given letter B to both of these lines, and in the third line the word whole, the rhyme scheme of this word does not match with any ending word of line 2, 3 and 4, just like the word shadow in the first line. So that is why to this also we have given a different letter, that is C. So thus we see that the rhyme scheme of this stanza is just like the rhyme scheme of the stanza 1. Now let us talk about the another literary device, that is the enjambment. About the enjambment we discussed earlier too. When a sentence or phrase continues over more than one line without any punctuation mark, literary device enjambment is there. And here we see the figure of speech enjambment in the line 2 and 3. When we see that the line 2 and 3 continues without any punctuation mark up to line 3, thus we see that the literary device here is enjambment. The next literary device is alliteration, that has been used in the fourth line by the poet. Students, alliteration is a figure of speech in which sound is repeated at the beginning of two or more closely connected words, normally consonant sound but vowel sound also. So here in the fourth line of this stanza, in the word plump and pass, we see that both the words are closely connected or closely placed, and the sound of consonant P is repeated in both of these words. Thus the literary device used in this line is alliteration. The next literary device in this stanza is imagery. About imagery too we earlier discussed. When poet uses words or phrases in such a way to create mental image in the reader's mind, literary device imagery is there. Here in the first line of second stanza, lurking in shadow. About lurking, as we earlier discussed, it means hiding. So here in this phrase or in the first line, in phrase lurking in shadow, when the poet uses this, the poet has tried to create an image of tiger's activities, so that when readers read it, readers can visualize. Thus we see that the literary device used in this line is imagery. Let us read third stanza to understand what he says further. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. Students, in this stanza, in the first line, the word snarling means to make an angry and warning sound, and the word bearing stands for showing. In the same line, the word fangs stands for two long sharp teeth at the front of the mouths of some animals, and terrorizing here stands for frightening or threatening to create fear, especially here among the villagers. Now let us see what does the poet say in the third stanza. In these lines, the poet imagines what the tiger would be doing in case he failed to find any prey in his natural habitat. He says that tiger would be angrily moving around the houses in a nearby village. He would be growling at the edge of the jungle near some village. He would be showing his white fangs or white teeth and terrible claws while moving here and there. He would thus become a cause of terror for the villagers. The poet here gives a hint that if we continue to destroy the forest cover and the natural habitat of the tigers, they will be forced to turn to our towns and villages to find their food. Now let us talk about the literary devices used in the third stanza. The first literary device is the rhyme scheme of this stanza. The rhyme scheme of this stanza is same as the previous two stanzas: A, B, C, B. So we see that the rhyme of the word house does not match with any ending word of line 2, 3 and 4. That is why letter A is given to this. And the rhyme scheme of the word age in the second line and the word village in the fourth line match with each other. That's why we have given letter B to both of these. And just like the word house in the first line, the rhyme scheme of or the rhyme of the word clause does not match with any word in second, third or fourth line. So we give a different letter to this, that is C. Thus the rhyme scheme of this stanza is just like the previous two stanzas: A, B, C, B. Let's talk about another poetic device in this stanza, that is enjambment. Students, about enjambment we earlier discussed in previous two stanzas. When a sentence or phrase continues over more than one line without any punctuation mark, literary device enjambment is there. So here we see when the poet says he should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge. So this line continues without any punctuation mark to the next line. Thus the figure of speech used in this line is enjambment. Next literary device is onomatopoeia. And what is onomatopoeia? Students, onomatopoeia is the use of words to imitate the sound they describe, or when words echo their sense through their sound effect, we have the figure of speech onomatopoeia. Here in the first line, the word snarling is the example of the figure of speech onomatopoeia. The next literary device is assonance, that we have earlier discussed in the first stanza. Assonance is the repetition of similar vowel sounds within the words in a sentence or line of poetry in stressed syllables. Here in the first line of the third stanza, we see that the vowel sound in the word should, around and houses has been repeated, and in the third line the vowel sound I in the word bearing, in the word his, in white and in the word his has been repeated. So thus we see that in both of these lines the use of assonance has been done by the poet. The next literary device in this stanza is consonance. Students, consonance has also been discussed in the first stanza. Consonance is close repetition of similar consonant sounds within the words, usually in stressed syllable. So here in the word his fangs, his claws, his fangs, his claws, here in these words we see that the consonant sound S has been repeated. That is why the figure of speech in this line is consonance. Now let us talk about the fourth stanza of this poem. Let us read what the poet further says. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. Students, here in this stanza, the word concrete cell in the first line stands for a very small and unpleasant cage, and in the third line the word stalking stands for moving slowly and quietly in a threatening way. Students, here the poet sees the tiger is locked in a concrete cell in the zoo. In spite of all his strength, he now lies imprisoned behind the bars. It means in this stanza, once again, the poet comes back to the tiger who is imprisoned in the cage in the zoo. He says, in spite of all his strength, he now lies imprisoned behind the bars. Very slowly and silently, the tiger moves up and down along the length of the cage. He moves in an angry and threatening manner. He takes no note of visitors who had come to the zoo to have a look at him. He completely ignores the visitors, as none of them thinks of releasing him from his prison. Moreover, due to their presence, he hardly gets any rest during the day. Now let us talk about the literary devices used in this stanza. First of all, like the previous stanzas, we will talk about the rhyming scheme of this stanza too. So the rhyming scheme of this stanza is same as the previous three stanzas. A, B, C, B. The next literary device used in this stanza is personification. And what is personification? We have earlier discussed in the first stanza too, when the poet used the pronoun he for the tiger, personifying him. So a figure of speech in which an inanimate object or abstract thing are given human qualities or abilities, figure of speech personification is there. So here in this stanza, we see that the tiger is personified because the poet refers him as he, and he has used the pronoun his also, and these pronouns have been used for the tiger. So in this sense, the poet has personified the tiger. The next literary device is assonance, and we know assonance is the repetition of similar vowel sounds within the words in a sentence or line of poetry. So here in this stanza, we see that when the poet says he logged concrete cell, the word he logged concrete cell, in the first line in these words, the vowel sound is prominent. That is why, and what vowel sound? Vowel sound E is prominent in he and logged and concrete and cell. So that is why the literary device assonance is here. The next literary device in this stanza is consonance. Students, consonance is a close repetition of similar consonant sounds within the words, usually in stressed syllable in a sentence or line of poetry. So here in this stanza, in the second line, we see the example of consonance. In the word his, the consonant sound S, and in the word strength and in the word bars, we see that consonant sound S is repeated. So that is why the literary device in this line is consonance. The next literary device in this stanza is alliteration, and in the third stanza too we talked about the literary device alliteration. Students, alliteration is the figure of speech in which sound is repeated in the beginning of two or more closely connected words, normally consonant sounds but vowel sound also. So here in this stanza, when we see behind bars in the second line, the letter B in the word behind and the word bar which is closely placed to the word behind, the consonant sound B is repeated here in the closely placed words in the beginning. Thus, here the literary device used is alliteration. Let us read the last stanza of this poem. Students, we see that in the second last and the last stanza, the poet comes back to the point from where he had started. I mean, the poet had started speaking the tiger who was imprisoned in the zoo behind the bars, and in the second and third stanza, the poet spoke about the tiger in the jungle or in his natural habitat, and now in the second last and the last stanza, the poet speaks about the tiger in the zoo behind the bars, how he feels. Now let us read the last stanza. The poet says he hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Students, in the second line, the word patrolling stands for to go around an area at regular times to check that it is safe, and in the third line the word brilliant stands for very bright. Students, in the last stanza, the poet takes us or readers back in the beginning and poem ends where it started. In this stanza, he says, due to the visitors, the tiger gets no rest during the day. Even at night, he remains disturbed due to the noise that comes from the patrolling cars. The tiger has thus lost all hope and feels very helpless. He thus stares at the brilliant stars shining brightly in the sky. It seems that he is looking for some sort of comfort and hope in these stars. His brilliant eyes show that he still hopes for the day when he would be able to run freely in the forest that is his natural habitat and live in natural surroundings. Now let us talk about the literary devices used in the last stanza of this poem. First of all, the rhyming scheme. The rhyming scheme of this stanza is 2, just like the previous stanzas. A, B, C, B. The next literary device is enjambment that we have earlier discussed. When a sentence or phrase continues over more than one line without any punctuation mark, literary device enjambment is there. Here we see that the third line continues to line 4 without any punctuation mark. That is why here the figure of speech or literary device enjambment is here. Now let us talk about the next literary device, that is the alliteration. Students, alliteration is the figure of speech in which sound is repeated in the beginning of two or more closely connected words, normally consonant sound but vowel sound also. So here in the first line we see in the word he and hears, the consonant sound H is repeated in these two words which are closely connected or closely placed, and the sound or consonant sound of H is repeated in the beginning of both of these words. Thus the literary device or figure of speech alliteration is here. The next literary device in this stanza is assonance, that we see in the third line in the word with, his, and the word brilliant, and the word brilliant in fourth line too. So what is assonance? We have earlier discussed about this also. Assonance is the repetition of similar vowel sounds within the words in a sentence or line of poetry in stressed syllables. So in the third line, the literary device assonance is here. Students, thus we completed the explanation of the poem A Tiger in the Zoo from the textbook First Flight, along with the literary devices used in this poem, difficult words and their meanings.